Today, I'm doing the $5 challenge at Walmart. I'll spend $5 for 3 days worth of food. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for $5. The rules are it can be $5 and some change, but it has to be under $6. And I'll be using basic pantry staples that you would find in most any kitchen. I thought this would be a great video to do because a lot of my viewers are doing either a no spend or a low spend month, including myself. I am worried about only shopping at Walmart though, because they don't have the best deals on produce, especially if you're only buying for one person, because many of their items are packaged in larger quantities. I think one Roma tomato is included in almost every challenge I've ever done. I don't have a lot of choices when it comes to the vegetables. However, I did spot this great deal on carrots. They had a 1-pound bag for 67 cents, and I can think of at least a few things I can do with these. I could make some carrot fritters with these, which would be fun. I've never done that on my channel. I could also make a carrot soup or even a cold carrot salad. Buying some frozen vegetables is probably going to be my best option here, so I chose the California style mix. I've already spent $2.15, so I have somewhere around $3 left. 1 pound of rice is going to go a long way towards keeping me feeling full and satiated, although there's not a lot of nutrition in this. I'll need to look to eggs for some protein. However, I know that the price has increased. One of my viewers informed me that there's a bird flu going on here in California, so I'm probably only going to be able to afford a 6-pack of eggs. These are currently 98 cents, so I think that's about 30 cents more than they normally are. I've been thinking about making some bagels. There's an old Weight Watchers recipe that's super easy and only requires 2 ingredients, Greek yogurt and flour. So I was hoping that they would have this Greek yogurt because sometimes they're sold out. I want to try to incorporate more pantry staples like flour into these challenges because, like I've said before, flour is the magic ingredient in budget cooking. There's so many different things you can do with it, and I do feel like I should be using it more often. For the holiday, I had purchased some pineapple and I was eating it the next day along with some rice, and I was thinking to myself how good that was and that I should make some pineapple fried rice on my channel. I don't think I've done that yet, and I'm actually not quite sure why. They're supposed to have these smaller cans of great value pineapple for less than $1, and it looks like they're sold out. Look how much they want for these tiny cans of peaches. So expensive. Anyway, this is a huge bummer because I really had my heart set on pineapple fried rice, so I'm gonna have to pivot and figure something else out. I think that with the bagels and eggs, my breakfast should be taken care of, but I don't think I have enough here for my lunches and dinners. I could purchase a cup of noodles and then add some of the vegetables with that. But still, this is only 12 ounces of vegetables, and I don't know how far those are going to go. Besides, there's like 0 nutrition in this cup of noodles, even though it would taste really good. I'll think about this for a while. Same thing with the little macaroni products. Since I've already purchased rice and there's not a lot of nutrients in that, I think I need to make sure that my next ingredient is both satiating and also has some nutrition in it. And since I am thinking of nutrition, I think I'll go ahead and swap out the white rice for the brown rice. I'm going to try to eat more whole foods in my diet this year, and one big way for me to do that is to just swap out brown rice for white rice. I'm going to try to squeeze in 1 banana. I was thinking that since I already have carrots, maybe I could find a package of just frozen cauliflower and broccoli. But when I looked, I found that they had frozen cauliflower and then bags of frozen broccoli, but they didn't have the great value brand of cauliflower and broccoli, just the bird's eye, which was definitely out of my price range. So I think I'm just going to stick with this. I found the seasoning blend, which I think would taste really good with rice. It has celery, onions, and bell peppers. However, I can't really imagine going 3 days without broccoli. Plus, I have something fun I wanted to do with that particular mix. I think my last ingredient needs to be beans. They have protein and other vitamins in them, plus it's going to help me feel full, but I don't have enough in the budget for the dry beans, so it's going to have to be canned, and I'm thinking about getting the chickpeas. So I'm going to swap out the chickpeas for the cup of noodles, and I think I'm done. Okay, so here's the haul, and here's what I paid. Before we get into the video, I wanted to remind you about my other channel where I've been posting individual recipes from my budget videos, and I've categorized them by type in order to make them easier to find. I'll link that channel for you in the description area of this video. First, I'll make the bagels. That way I can use them for my meals for the 3 days. I'm following an old 2-ingredient Weight Watchers recipe. However, I just realized that it calls for self-rising flour, which contains added baking powder and salt. I don't have self-rising flour, so I'll be adding in the baking powder and salt into my flour. If you have bread flour, then go ahead and use that instead of regular flour because it will make your bagels come out chewier. I missed filming this, but I added 2 teaspoons of baking powder. The recipe calls for 1 cup of Greek yogurt, and I don't think that this container is going to be a cup. We have what looks to be almost 3/4 of a cup, if that, but we're going to make it work anyway. I'll try to mitigate this by removing a small amount of the flour. Bagels are not like biscuits where you have to avoid kneading them so that they'll be tender. You're supposed to knead these for 5 to 7 minutes, which I basically did inside of this bowl, and I did have to add a little more water just to pick up these extra crumbs. This is probably the point where I should tell you that I am not a baker, nor do I really want to be. For some reason, I have a negative association with baking. It probably goes back to my childhood. I don't know, it sounds weird, but it just is. All I'm saying is don't expect much from me here. That being said, I do believe that baking is a skill and it's something that people get better at the more they do it. I also believe that cooking with flour and baking can be so helpful when you're on a tight budget. Okay, now let's talk about these bagels. I was having difficulty getting them all the same size. I wanted them to be somewhat uniform. I can't tell you how many times I've made videos and I've thought to myself, why didn't I just take a little extra time to make sure that everything was even? So I was really trying to do that this time. And I started rolling out one of the balls and I soon realized that my dough was just too dry and it wasn't going to come together well. So I decided to put the entire thing back into the bowl, add a little bit of water, kind of rework it with my hands, and then do it again. So that's what I did. This time the dough was much stickier and it was very tacky, but that made it more pliable. And I was wishing I had some of those very tight kitchen gloves that you wear because mine were so loose that they made this more difficult than I think it needed to be. This time when I rolled out my dough into a tube shape, it looked much nicer and it wasn't cracking all over like before. The recipe calls for rolling it into a long tube-like shape and then just connecting the end. But this seemed so awkward to me and I kept struggling to get it the right length. So I'm not sure I like this method. Okay, that was a lot of work and this is ugly. So I'm going to try a different method on the next one. I do hope my pro bakers are at home laughing right now. I figured that everyone that's new to making bagels can watch me and then avoid the mistakes that I made. So for this one, I'm just going to make a round and then I'm going to poke my thumb through it to make the hole. This does feel a little wrong, however, it seems to be quite effective and so much easier than the other way. I stopped when I was doing this at this point and watched a short on how to make bagels, and this girl put 2 fingers in the middle and then kind of swirled it and it made the hole bigger. I'm too novice at this point to know how important the size of the hole should be. However, I think I'm about to find out after this bakes. I'm thinking these are not going to look very beautiful though, but I'm hoping they at least taste good. I'll use the white of one of my eggs to do an egg wash on my bagels. It's going to give it a nice brown color, and then I'll be saving the rest of this egg white for another recipe. Some people boil their bagels, but this recipe just calls for putting it in the oven. I had originally thought I would do both and then see which one I liked better. However, it's late in the day and I'm just not up for doing both. There are lots of different fun ways to customize your bagels. I've got the everything but the bagel seasoning blend. I also found some black garlic that would probably be good here. And it also would have been nice when I was making the dough, maybe to add in some raisins and ground cinnamon into the flour mix. That would be fun. I also have some black and white sesame seeds, which sounds the best to me right now. If you don't have any of these, you could always just top them with some garlic salt. I'm sure that would be very good. Two of my favorite bagels are sesame and the Asiago bagel. So if you have some Parmesan or even some cheddar cheese or Asiago, obviously, you could add a little to the top here. I also forgot about the minced onion. I think that would have been really nice here too. You can tell by looking at the bagels that my skill level increased with each one. Okay. Wow, those look a lot better than I thought they were going to look. Even the ugly one isn't so ugly anymore. I'm hoping they taste as good as they look. The next day was the first day of the challenge, and I was so excited to try my bagels. On day one, I toasted the bagel and had it with a fried egg topped with some hot sauce. I wasn't sure how chewy this was going to be since I used regular flour instead of bread flour, but it was plenty chewy for me, and I'm actually kind of shocked at how delicious these bagels turned out. For my breakfast for day two, I basically had the same thing again, except this time I shredded part of my carrots, and again I used some hot sauce, and really any hot sauce would do here. Even a Taco Bell hot sauce, just cut the corner and drizzle it over your egg. And I think that's going to add a nice addition. Then I topped it with the shredded carrots, which gave it a nice crunch. I think this is one of my favorite extreme budget breakfasts. I could definitely see myself making a big, huge batch of these bagels and then putting them in the freezer and then pulling out as needed. And here's my last breakfast. I ate my banana with a toasted bagel and I sliced up my Roma tomato. For my lunch on the first day, I had some brown rice with a fried egg, some of the vegetables, a carrot fritter, and some crispy chickpeas. I'll show you the carrot fritters and chickpeas later in the video. For lunch for the next 2 days, I decided to use my carrots to make a carrot soup, and then I thought I would add in some of the chickpeas to give it some additional protein, and the carrots were nice and clean, so I'm not even going to grate these. I'm just going to give them a rinse and then throw them in the pot, and I'm going to save out 2 carrots for something else. I'm thinking about making some fritters. For the soup, I'm adding 4 cups of water, the carrots, and about half of the chickpeas. I'm going to hold out some of the liquid from the chickpeas just in case I want to use this somehow. Normally, I would add in my dry bouillon powder, but I think there's a shortage right now of that product, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere in my area. So I've just been using the Better Than Bouillon vegetable, and I'll add just a small amount. You can make this without bouillon. However, I think it does give it some extra depth and flavor. And obviously, you could use chicken or whatever it is that you like to use for your bouillon, but I do think vegetable is best. And I'll also be adding a few seasonings in here that I think would go well in this soup, like a half teaspoon of cumin. I'll also add in a dash of oil and some pepper, and I realized I did need to add some additional water so I could let this boil until the carrots softened. I'm also adding garlic powder, and lots of people saute onions for the carrot soup. If you want to add onion powder, you can. I'm going to skip it this time. I'm also adding in a dash of curry. Some people like a lot more, but I do prefer it mild. And I'm also going to add a dash of turmeric, and if you're wondering what a dash correlates to, I was looking this up and it says that a dash is like 1/8 of a teaspoon. So that's what I'll put on the recipe. I let this simmer for a good long while to let the flavors develop. If you taste it early on, it's going to taste bland. The flavors do need time to develop. And then I'm going to give this a taste, and it tastes perfect to me. I'm going to go ahead and use half of a bagel to toast up some bagel chips, and I'm going to use this for 2 bowls of the soup that I'll be having for lunch. This is lunch the first day. I didn't know if I just wanted to use the hand mash or if I wanted a velvety texture. So the first day I had it like this. It was very thick with a few smaller pieces in it, and I topped it obviously with the bagel croutons, and it was delicious. It was so simple, but the flavors were just amazing. I really love this, and I had some coconut milk in the fridge, and I was thinking if some people want, they can add coconut milk to theirs, or you could even add it in while cooking. I myself liked it just the way it is without adding anything to it, but I do like to always show optional add-ons. For lunch on the second day, I had the same thing, but this time I threw it in the blender to get that velvet texture. I wanted to see which one I liked better, and again, it really doesn't matter to me, so I don't think it's worth the extra effort. However, if I was serving guests, I would definitely throw it in the blender. Now I'll show you my meal prep, which is what all of my dinners consisted of, and one of my lunch. I basically decided to cook the entire bag of rice, but I did it in 2 batches. The first one I cooked with some turmeric to give it that beautiful yellow color, and the other one I just used regular water. Obviously, you can add in some bouillon if you want some extra seasonings, but this time I just wanted mine plain. And these are the ingredients I had left over. I originally thought I was going to do some stir-fried rice, but I realized that the easiest thing to do would be for me to do a mini meal prep with all of these ingredients, and this is perfect because I know these containers are the exact size of food that I eat for my meals, and these are the hefty food storage containers that I get at Sam's Club. I just noticed that they're $3 off until January 21st, so they're $6 for 30 of these, and you can use them in the microwave. Just thought I'd mention that in case you're interested. Remember, I still had most of 1 egg remaining from the whitewash that I used for my bagel. So I'm going to add that with another egg and make some scrambled eggs for 2 of my dinners. I also added a couple tablespoons of water just to bulk these up a bit. I was hoping to be able to make this pack of vegetables spread to 4 meals. So I started by separating it into 4 piles, and then I planned to add some egg to each dish so that I would get a nice mix of protein, veggies, and grains. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the chickpeas, whether I wanted to add those in to boost the protein or if I wanted to just make them crispy in case I wanted to eat those later for a snack. And I just decided to make them crispy, so I started by draining them and drying them really well, and then I added a little oil to them and salt and baked them in my toaster oven. I love crispy chickpeas. They are such a great, healthy, high-protein snack, and you can use whatever kind of seasonings you have, like chili powder, paprika, garlic salt. I've even made these with the Kinder Butter Blend, and those were really delicious. This gochugaru seasoning has a smoky, sweet flavor that I think would be really good on these as well. And I definitely want to try this everything but the elote seasoning sometime, because with the chipotle and the cumin and the cheese, I think this would be really delicious. For my next recipe, I'm making carrot fritters. For this recipe, I'll be using my grater, and I noticed that many of you have been ordering this, and I'm wondering if you like it as much as I do. I use this for everything. It's made my life so much easier. I think for this dish, I'm going to use similar seasonings to the one for my carrot soup, which is basically just some cumin and then a touch of curry.
Whoa.
Should I add my flour in first or my egg? I think I'll add my flour first, and I'm only using 1/3 of a cup. These carrot fritters were delicious. They weren't crispy, but they were chewy. If you wanted to make them crispy, you could probably double or triple up on the flour and then maybe fry them in more oil and make sure that your carrots are completely dry before adding to the mixture. I would love to try making a gluten-free, low-carb version of this. Maybe with a high-protein flour like chickpea flour or almond flour. You know, I think these would be amazing with some raisins in them. But I loved the flavor of this with the cumin and the curry. It was just really good. These were my dinners for days 1 through 3, along with one lunch. For the vegetables, I just pan fried them with a little oil and garlic salt, and I thought they were really good that way, so I ended up doing the remaining vegetables the same way. Overall, I thought this was one of my healthiest extreme budget meal plans. It's simply not possible to get enough nutrition with only having $5 spread over 3 days, but I did think this was a really good use of those funds. We were able to get 3 different kinds of vegetables, 2 fruits, 3 sources of protein, some grains, and even some dairy. The last 2 times I've done this challenge, I was able to purchase 12 eggs, but I couldn't do that this time because they had gone up so much in price. Doing this challenge made me realize how devastating even slight increases in food costs can be for families that are struggling to get by. I didn't end up getting as much soup as I wanted. However, I always eat a late breakfast and an early dinner, so it worked out fine for me. But if somebody else was doing the same exact challenge, they could obviously take some of the food from dinner and put it with their lunch to have a more even spread of food throughout the day. One thing I didn't like about this meal plan was that this meal was repeated too frequently. My plan for one of the meals was to dump the rice into a pot along with some water and bouillon and make a congee rice porridge, which would have been delicious, and then just top it with the vegetables and egg. Unfortunately, I ran out of time, so that didn't happen, but I wanted to mention this because it would have added some more variety into the meals, and a savory rice porridge is delicious. And lastly, even though the bagels took a little effort to make, I definitely think they were worthwhile, and it's recipes like those that are game changers for people that are eating on a tight budget. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and hit the like button. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you Sunday, if not sooner, on my other channel.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up